The death of Jaecerys Velaryon is one of the biggest tragedies in both House of the Dragon and Fire and Blood, but the differences in which this death is set up lead it to be tragic for completely different reasons. Fire and Blood frames Jace's death as the tragedy of war bringing down heroes, bringing down the truly good who are pursuing the right thing, who are defending their family, etc. And the horror of that being the result of war, that you can be the hero, you can do the right thing, and because of the horrors of war, it will get you anyway. The show, House of the Dragon, on the other hand, frames this as a tragedy of insecurity. A prince who wants to be the hero, who wants to do good, but is constantly undermined and not given the opportunity to do so until he throws caution to the wind and makes an impulsive decision that leads to a fatal mistake. And I want to talk about this specific change from book canon to show canon because I think it's a very good example of a change that isn't bad, quote unquote. It's just different. It's doing something different. It's trying to accomplish a different thing. And both of them have weight to it and have interesting things to talk about. Now, in the book Fire and Blood, the context of the Battle of the Gullet is vastly different from the TV show. In that version, the kind of impetus of the battle starting is as the Triarchy is heading towards Westeros, they intercept the ship that they abandon, which is currently carrying little Aegon and little Viserys, Rhaenyra's sons, that are going to Pentos to be fostered. As they are captured, little Aegon is able to escape the ship on his dragon Stormcloud, but Stormcloud is a very small dragon, isn't quite ready to carry a human being, and so because he's so slow, he gets shot up a bunch, but does ultimately make it to Dragonstone before the dragon passes away, and little Aegon is very much traumatized. But while little Aegon got away, little Viserys doesn't. He is still on the ship, he is captured by the Triarchy, and so when little Aegon notifies the Blacks, they send in all the dragon seeds led by Jace, ostensibly to go rescue Viserys and take out this, giant armada that's heading their way. And so I think, as you can see from the get-go, this is vastly different. This is, the context of it is Jace going to go do the heroic thing. He's going to go save his brother who, has been captured by the literal bad guys. Pirates. He got captured by pirates, for fuck's sake. And then over the course of the battle, you have Jace make a tragic mistake where he flies a little too low, gets hit by the grapnel and gets dragged down into the water and shot up. And so what George is doing with this is kind of leaning on a trope that he has explored before, especially in Baelor Breakspear, as we recently saw in the TV adaptation Night of the Seven Kingdoms. But George likes to show us a good character, a character who kind of embodies the decency and, like, I guess you could say, like, the good values that exist in this universe, and then show that you can have all that, but if you are in the pursuit of violence for whatever reasons, even if they are good, you can be a victim of that. Baelor Breakspear, tries to help Dunk because it is the right thing to do, and he still pays the price for it. And so in my reading, I think Jace reads very much as kind of another iteration of the Baelor model, if you will. He's just further proving that point to us, the reader. And I know a lot of people take this as kind of evidence of George having kind of a cynical worldview, and that's what he imbues his books with, but I very much disagree. I think the actual point of this is that war, no matter what, is always going to have a negative impact on people, regardless of if you're good or not. And that the real thing to object to is war itself. Lest we forget that George R.R. Martin was a conscientious objector in Vietnam, and I'm sure watched firsthand as people were forced into service and then died over what exactly? And so Jace represents that kind of worldview of the good guy who loses his life because at the end of the day, that is what war does. It robs us of the good people as well as the bad people. The show, on the other hand, is exploring the tragedy of insecurity in a young person just like Jace. Jace, who wants to help, who wants to make a difference in the world, feels constrained by the environment that he's in, feels like he is never able to actually do so, and that leads him to feel like he is not living up to the standard that a prince of the realm would be expected to. And this insecurity in his role, in his place in this institution, becomes the tragedy itself, because this institution is not it's not good for your mental health. Ultimately, this like monarchical system where all of this pressure is put on the individuals within it, even though they obviously are getting the privileges that go with it, it's detrimental to their health. And then ultimately, the tragedy of this insecurity is it leads Jace to do the very thing that he is fighting against. His mother has been, robbed of her birthright because she is a woman, and then he too, in the pursuit of wanting to fit this ideal that he thinks exists in the world, becomes another perpetrator in his mother losing her autonomy. So his insecurity blinds him to what the actual point of this all is, and instead he goes out to war to find glory, to be the hero, and then ultimately loses his life because of the messiness of war. And that's another reason I hate all of this like Rhaena is fully to blame discourse that is popping up everywhere, because it's not. It's a group effort here. It's everyone trying to fulfill an ideal that has been kind of put on them, and then realizing that, hey, this is kind of impossible to do. And in some cases, that is going to be a fatal mistake, as we see with Jace. So once again, while I do have some criticisms of this episode and the show in general, I do want to point to this as an example of different, not bad. It's still interesting. It's still posing interesting questions and making us think of, the structures of society that force people into these various positions. And that's okay. That is what an adaptation is allowed to do. In short, losing Jace the Face was going to hurt either way, but at least both ways were interesting.